This is case 06D349743. Counselor, your appearances, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Fran Fine, appearing on behalf of the plaintiff, Christopher Horodesky, who's with me in court today.
Danielle Dawson, burn number 11792, on behalf of defendant who is present.
Okay, so I'm perplexed, Ms. Fine, how we make the leap from the minor child running away from dad's to this conspiracy where mom's calling the shots and directing the child to do all of this.
You read Nick Ponzo's letter? It's the last page.
And Your Honor, we weren't aware that the child was even in therapy until this morning when we got the reply. And same day, Nick Ponzo has the time to write a letter to this court stating that he's spoken to the child at length about this issue after apparently at least one other person and the police have been involved speaking to the child on this issue.
That's right.
That's right.
So who solicited this from Ponzo?
I didn't solicit anything. I thought the child needed to speak to someone, not his mother, not his father. He had seen him before. He needed to speak to someone. The child had clearly left the house in the middle of the night, walked next door to the...
So who took the child to Ponzo?
Dad did, at my urging. He needed to talk to someone.
And Ponzo on his own decided that the Honorable Judge Rebecca Burton needed to get a letter?
It wasn't to her, it was to you. He just didn't remember that it was you. It used to be in C, and then it was moved to M, if you recall. And remember, this is the case where the mother has 3 times claimed the father did something inappropriate, sexually abused, and physically abused, and all 3 were not substantiated, but yet my client lost contact for over a year. She's appealed it twice. It's been affirmed twice. This case is, this woman will not stop.
Your Honor, this is
I am
the
so
fourth
sorry.
motion that has reopened the case.
You gotta connect the dots for me, because I don't get from this child sneaking out of his house and walking past his doorman and getting in a van at the wherever the hell casino
His mother
and making
was
it
outside waiting for him. He went out, he came downstairs.
Miss Fine,
Yes, sir.
can you prove it?
I can prove it by connecting the dots. And the dots that you asked for are as follows. I will bring in the detective who called me in the morning and said this whole thing is fishy. Secondly, Mom opened the door for him at 4 a.m., fully dressed and ready for him. She wasn't asleep as well. And he's afraid of the dark, but yet he walked outside in the dark and to Palace Station where he met strangers. No, Judge. Mom was waiting out front. And then when he went to the 7-Eleven at Elizabeth Greer was the person at the desk, he said to her, "May I use the phone?" She said, "I'm not permitted to let you use the store phone. Let me give you my cell phone." Her cell phone dialed Mom's number. Mom didn't answer. Why? Because Mom was outside waiting for him. And then he got in the car and he drove with his mother to their house. And that's when the police were called.
That doesn't connect the dots.
Well, Your Honor,
That's a theory.
But you see that this child is afraid of his mother. They go to sports activities. Hayden is not allowed to look at his father. He's not allowed to talk to his father. He's not allowed to say hello to his father. He even tells Nick Ponzo that. He's intimidated by his mother. He's afraid. He's a robot. He does what his mother says because he's afraid of getting hit.
Right. Well, first of all, I didn't ask for this, So this is an unsolicited, and I seriously doubt that your client or you communicated with the other side to prearrange this. I mean, isn't this in violation of our court rules?
Isn't taking the child out of the house at 3 in the
We're
morning a
talking,
violation
no,
of the court
listen.
rules?
All we have right now is a child who ran away from Dad's house. What I have here is probably a sanctionable activity by you or your client.
I don't think so, Your Honor, because of the fact that I was doing what was in the best interest of the child to protect him. If you can't see that this child does these things, I don't know what to suggest. This case has such a horrible history of the mother manipulating this child.
Here's where we go from here, if you want to go from here. Your client, at his sole expense, can pay for an evaluation.
He's always paid everything.
And I want his full psych eval, her full psych eval,
Again?
the
This is
kid
the third
full psych.
time.
Why not?
Judge, she's accused him of sexually abusing this child twice, and twice the court has found it to be false. And she's taken him to therapist after therapist after therapist with no repercussion to her.
And so,
we've not been able to do anything about that.
But okay, we've had 3 psych evals, yet your request is Mom have a psych eval, Dad get a pickup order, and we award fees and costs.
The child is back with that.
Without any proof that rises to the adequate level of evidentiary standard that she's responsible for this incident.
If Your Honor can't look past today, look before to the past, the history of this horrible case.
I can, and I can't.
Then I'm asking you to
I
do
cannot connect the dot to
Well.
get to the point where she manipulates this child into walking out of his house, and she's out there waiting. Nobody sees her. Nobody IDs her. The kid never tells the police anything other than the story that he's got is that he walked to.
He's afraid of the dark. He never would have walked outside without someone
Well, he
waiting.
did.
He didn't. Someone was
He
waiting.
didn't walk out.
He walked out, but look, I have the video to show that he walked out and he basically
So
told the doorman.
it shows her. It shows her vehicle.
Doesn't show the vehicle, but it doesn't show that he's afraid, and it shows that he was walking out because he knew that she was waiting there.
Yeah, so have a psych eval done of this kid. Is he afraid of the dark? Is he not afraid of the dark? Has he got runaway tendencies? I don't know what's going on.
I don't
I've
either,
got your
Judge. That's
version
my
of
idea.
events that makes
What was I supposed to
makes
do?
no
Nothing?
more.
What was I supposed to do? Nothing?
I didn't, Miss
All I
Fine.
can tell you is when Dad
Miss
showed up.
Fine. All I can tell you is that your motion, I cannot grant. I mean, the child's back with Dad. The custody order's in place. So all that's left is you want a psych eval of her. That request is denied. I mean, you haven't even requested a change of custody, so I don't even have to address it.
Well, there isn't a need to change custody. We have primary
And
have twice been ordered that.
Your Honor,
so
the custody
your
order-
request is to request that Mom have primary physical custody.
What?
I mean, her
Her request.
counter motion, yeah. I mean, how do we get there with one incident?
Your Honor, the problem we're having is that it's not one incident. Dad has taken the leeway
Well,
that
does
he
your
was
client want to
granted.
pay to have everybody go through an evaluation?
My client's gone through 2 evaluations that haven't come up with any problems. My client would
seriously?
like plaintiff to have an evaluation, and she would like the child to be in
Is she
care.
gonna pay for it?
Willing to pay for his evaluation?
No, not just him. I mean, I'm talking about the whole damn family. I'm talking about a PhD. We're probably going to incur $15,000 to get to the bottom of who's screwed up and who's not screwed up and everything else.
And, Your Honor, my client did pay for hers twice at plaintiff's request. Yes, you would. I know. Would you want?
I can't
to pay
afford
for
it. You pay for everything. I have to. No, I can't pay for his, but he should.
My client is not able to pay
Tell
for
me
it.
how much have you charged for representation of this, this motion?
I think we're at 3,000 based on the review of everything that's gone through.
Well, I'm not talking about a review of everything, I'm just talking
Well,
about responding to this
Understood.
single.
Responding to the opposition and the ex parte motion, the review of that, the affidavits that were filed, and supplement everything in conjunction with today's hearing.
All right, Ms. Fine, what's your position on their request for attorney's fees?
Denied, Judge. We didn't cause the situation. Mom should have met with Dad, and they should have taken, this is my feeling. This is my total feeling. I think Danielle gave her the very best advice possible. Because during that first day when we were up in arms and didn't know where the child was and didn't know what was happening, Danielle gave her the right advice. Danielle said, get him to school. So I have to say that my motion was filed while he was at school. So Danielle got him to school. Danielle made sure the child was at school, and Danielle made sure that Amber had left him at school so that Dad could pick him up at the end of the day.
Let me ask this,
Your Honor.
did Ms. Johnson, did you call the police as soon as the child arrived at your house?
There's a police
Is there any
call.
dispute as to that fact?
No, because he received a call from
Yes.
Henderson PD at 5:05.
And, but she did not contact
She absolutely
Mr.
did. She contacted him prior to the child going to school, saying, "Do you want to meet? What do you want to do?
After
Do
the
you
police
want to
called
talk
him.
to?" Yes, after the police
Okay.
called him at 5:00 in the morning.
Got there at
What, what time did the child show up at her door?
4 o'clock.
She called the police as soon as she was able to get the people who had dropped the child off out of her house.
All right.
Around
And then when did
4
she call
o'clock.
Dad?
She called
didn't.
Dad that morning after she had spoken to me because the police had
What
we
time?
Texted him, you told me
around
at 6.
6.
After the
Around
cops.
6, after the police spoke to her. I have a copy of the text message,
5:11.
5:11.
I'd like to see it first, please. 10:56 a.m. This says 5:11 a.m.
Printed. at
I see, but
10:56.
here's the deal. In the affidavit that I provided from Elizabeth Greer at 7-Eleven, she said that the little boy said, "My mother is coming to get me." And that was the plan. And that's why she allowed him to walk outside, because the mother was there coming to get him.
Your Honor, there's
We
absolutely
still don't know who these
no
people are.
proof of that.
Yeah,
Would
well,
you like the
Yes, that's
text
crazy
message, Your Honor?
allegations.
look,
Texted she didn't call.
the court,
I also.
they're just,
contacted opposing counsel
I mean,
that
it doesn't seem like there was,
absolutely did.
the motion, I understand why it's filed, but it's so reactionary. The fact is that once he knew the child was in school, that he was going to be able to pick up the child,
Didn't know that till after.
the
I
motion
filed
should have
it.
been taken off calendar.
You're absolutely right, it should have, but I was so concerned that it would happen again, that I needed Mom to know that she couldn't intimidate the
Okay,
child anymore.
well, your client owes her $750 in attorney's fees for responding to what the court believes was
Fine.
a frivolous motion.
Your Honor, the other issue is that we found out today that the child is enrolled in therapy
If
with
there's-
Nick Ponzo, who was a provider years and years ago. The child's also seen apparently Stephen Callis, who would want this child to have.
If the child is in therapy, you need to comply with legal custody standards. You need to make sure that she has access, that she's aware of.
She won't come,
What's-
she won't participate, we've tried.
Well,
We had no
But you
idea.
need to notify. I'm not doing anything with this today, but I have to go on record saying I believe that if it's not a honest to goodness actual violation of the court's rule, it violates the spirit of the court rule, and I understand why you did it. And I agree that if the child runs away, he needs to see somebody. But, it's not for the purposes of litigation, and the other party should have been notified and should have been involved with it. And I don't know, she's saying she knew nothing about it. I don't know if he notified her or not. I'm just saying,
I totally understand
for
that,
future,
and I agree with you.
because my guess is that you're going to have more issues with this child acting out, and the child is going to certainly understands that you guys don't like each other, and the child's going to have conflicts because of that, and he's going to tell you what you want to hear and tell you what you want to hear, and if the child doesn't have issues, then he's going to find ways to twist the knife into each of you. So you probably do need him in therapy, and you probably need to cooperate and coordinate with that. So hopefully...
We did, Your Honor, and she owes him $5,000 in fees because she never paid her half, and so we had to get a judgment.
Okay.
What are we talking about right now?
If you've got an outstanding judgment, it'll be offset against the $750 that I awarded today.
Thank you, Judge.
All right.
Your Honor, the other issue is visitation has not been happening.
Well,
at all.
there's an order, a custody order. I expect it to be complied with. Okay?
She's had all of her days. I told him not to allow her,
Well,
not to stop it until you made an order.
all right. The order is that the prior custody order is in full force and effect and should be complied with. If it's
We
not
just
being
need-
complied with, file the appropriate.
Absolutely. And Your Honor, if I hadn't brought it to you, you would have screamed at me, the courtroom doors weren't locked. They weren't closed. Why didn't you bring this to me?
What?
I would have gotten yelled at if I hadn't brought this to you.
About what?
So you can yell at me anytime
About
you want.
what?
If I hadn't brought this motion, just so I could keep you apprised of what's going on. But anyway, I mean, I just know if I was damned if I did, and I was damned if I didn't.
Well, okay.
But I protected a child, and that's what I needed to do, and I thank you.
Right.
Your Honor, if we can have at least some sort of a direction as to a new therapist or someone who's in place for this
We've already gone
child.
through everybody in town.
We haven't gone through everything.
What's wrong with Ponzo?
He was involved in the litigation years and years ago, back
Okay.
in
Filed a
2011.
complaint against
There's
him,
been
that's all.
3 therapists since him. There's clearly some bias here when he's saying
Then,
mom
look, is he
orchestrated
seeing
this.
somebody
He's with
currently?
him at the Red Rock. I mean, come on.
No.
Christopher?
Just Nick Ponzo since the incident.
Well, okay, and he's seen Nick Ponzo, what, once or
3
twice?
times.
Tried 2 or 3
All right.
times.
Find somebody that hasn't been involved in the litigation, because
Recommend anyone? Because there really isn't anyone that we haven't.
Katie
used already.
Steinkamp,
She was the one that we owe the $5,000 to.
Sharon Bradley.
Cher Bradley.
she's on the provider list.
Nope.
What you said?
This is the new one.
That's because she doesn't want him because he likes Nick. He confides in Nick. Oh, wait, how about Galit Rosen, and I'll make a full disclosure that she just got her master's in counseling and she's still an intern, but it will be less expensive for
I mean,
everyone.
are you guys looking for, you don't need a PhD or a PsyD, do you? There's,
And you can pay for it, because you should have to pay for it, so I got it.
Donna Gosnell, she's an LMFT. There's,
People that aren't on the provider list that are excellent.
I know.
And I can't use these people anymore.
Well, if you guys can agree to somebody that's not on the
Fine with
provider
Donna
list, go right
Gosnell.
ahead.
Anyone that I say that I'm
Deb-
fine with that you would be?
Deborah Roberts, Claudia Schwartz,
Well, you used both of them.
Keisha Wyford.
Keisha might be good. Keisha would be great. How about throwing 3 names in a hat, you pick?
All right.
Well, but Keisha's
Yeah.
in Summerlin and she's in Green Valley, so we need to find somebody in between. That's the problem.
If you guys can't agree on somebody and you think the child needs to be in custody, then file the appropriate motion and make your report.
Counseling. Thank you, Your Honor. I'll try to work with
All right.
Danielle. Just can't do it with her parents breathing down my neck and making recommendations.
I think it was me who was making those recommendations.
They were
Fran.
sitting there going through all the papers.
All right.
There's also a request that the therapy be recorded if the child is involved in therapy.
Be recorded.
Yes,
No,
so
no,
we
no.
can-
You guys
allegations
pick a
made that
therapist.
aren't
If it's that therapist's,
And it's not for the
I think
purpose of-
I think their profession has standards regarding recording sessions.
And it wouldn't be for the purpose of litigation, it would be for the purpose of helping this child. The problem is that I don't believe this child. I
Okay,
don't believe
we're
counsel's gonna
done.
help
I've ruled on the issues I'm going to rule on.
Your Honor, can I make one query? I'll file a motion if I have to, but I believe that this child is beyond getting help. I believe he's learned how to manipulate as his mother is.
Yeah.
So I believe that maybe a behavioral school might help him. So I'm thinking of filing a motion that he be allowed to go to a behavioral school up in Utah for a year.
I think that would require a meet and confer.
I might file a motion. I mean, I'm just asking if the court would consider it. If we had an assessment that said,
I mean,
if you look at the last paragraph again, the last sentence.
have you you know what goes on at these behavioral schools, and you're sending an awful young child.
11.
Yeah. Yeah, typically, the kids that go to those behavioral schools have drug problems. I mean, there's a few of them that are for kids with
There's a school
legitimate
called-
diagnosis.
Well, I know there's a school in Arizona called Judson, and that school didn't have kids that had drug problems, it had kids that had behavioral problems only.
Run it,
Horseback riding, all kinds of stuff. I just think he needs some help that a therapist can't help him with.
run it past,
That would be amazing.
run it past Ms.
for-
Dawson. I
Of course
mean,
it would, but I was
I'm not
just wondering.
saying, but it would have to be,
Agreed.
it would have to either be an agreement between the parties, or it would have to rise to the level of being almost necessary.
Right, well,
Because
if the
it's-
therapist that we can select finds there to be a problem, then they will probably have to make a report to CPS, and we'll have to go from there, and then
You can
CPS will
prepare
be.
an order for me?
I will
All right,
prepare an
thank you.
order.
Run it past Ms. Fine. Thank you. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.